What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Stream Kings. As promised, we're officially back.
It
It
just
feels
took
good.
us. It just took us longer than anticipated.
Yeah. Well, I hope everybody caught all of those podcasts that we totally didn't record. So it's fine. It's fine. We'll catch up. I think we got a banger here today. Um, we are fulfilling our promise of
6
covering
months in the making.
6 months in the making. Well, we had to really make sure that we wanted to do it. It's not like it's your favorite movie or anything. Um, we are covering the 1974 classic Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
An
So
absolute masterpiece.
truly, I think, and we'll talk about it some when actually quite a bit probably, just like how impactful this movie really is. Like it's not just a movie, it's not just a slasher. There's a lot to this one. So, but got to start with some numbers because that's my thing. So, 84% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is actually a little bit lower than I anticipated. Like I thought it was going to be higher, but I can see where somebody might knock it down a peg, just with some of the pacing and some of that kind of stuff. But overall, loved. It made almost $31 million on a. We got another range here, but I'm just going to go with the top end.
Mhm.
$140,000 budget is what it was, but the high end of that little range there. So commercially successful. It's a classic. I don't think we can talk enough. Like with this podcast, it's going to be 45 minutes to an hour, but it's like you feel like you could talk forever about this movie probably.
Right. Yeah.
So because this is one of your favorites. So how were you first introduced to Texas Chainsaw?
I, ironically, for it being my favorite, I don't remember the first time that I saw it. Um, and I don't know. I can't tell you why, but I remember revisiting it when we were in college,
Mm-hmm.
probably around my junior or senior year. And I don't know, man. I guess I must not have remembered it right, or maybe I watched the sequel and didn't realize it. But I
Mm-hmm.
remember watching this in college after, having watched things like Nightmare on Elm Street and with like The Ring and Saw and all that stuff, and just remember thinking, I don't really understand what I'm looking at, but it makes me uncomfortable. It
Yeah.
makes me
Yeah.
like it's just it made me squirm, and I don't think I watched it again for a while. And then, upon a couple rewatches, I was like, actually, I really, really like this. I really, really like how it's shot. I like how it's done.
Mm-hmm.
I also found out more about like, like you said, we'll get into more stuff like this um, later on. But some of the backstory to it, not just like the film, but like how it would like production
Mm-hmm.
and things like that. And it just slowly, this one and Halloween kind of battle it out for my favorite horror movie pretty regularly. So,
It's a classic too. So,
mhm.
but yeah, no, that's awesome. I'm kind of surprised you couldn't remember, but I also like I was trying to think back too for me, and like I don't think I saw this before maybe 2 or 3 years ago. Like this is one of those I remember people talking about it like when I was a kid growing up because everybody was like, it's based on a true story. I think didn't they do a remake in the mid 2000s?
Right. And actually, now that you say that, I think that's probably what I watched
Yeah.
because I remember it, which is actually not as bad as everybody says it is. I will say that. But yeah, they did a remake. I think in the early 2000s, maybe 2003.
I mean that tracks because like I remember talking. I for some reason literally in like sixth grade band we're just talking about Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which I hadn't seen because I didn't like scare movies back then. But kind of got me introduced to it. And then when the HHN house came around a couple years ago, and I remember you were hyped about it, and I remember looking on the Apple store, and it was like on sale, I think for $5. And I was like, you know what, let me buy it. Let me, give it a shot, give it a little whirl, and ended up really liking it. I felt like I needed to catch up with the source material before I went through the house. So,
I feel like
um,
I also remember you texting me after the first time. Like I have no doubt, like you rewatched it and like it now, but I think you
mm,
remember it not even saying you didn't like it. I think I remember you being like, I just finished it. That was
it.
interesting, or something like that.
No, that tracks. That tracks because, in full disclosure, it's not one of my favorites necessarily. Like, I think it's really good, and I have a lot
Hmm.
of good things to say about it. But it's not. I don't know. Like you were saying, like it does make you squirm. Like, even going back and rewatching and everything, just like a couple weeks ago, it's like there's parts of this movie where it's just like,
Hmm.
what's going on,
Yeah.
but it's fun and just trippy too at the same time. So,
Right. Yeah.
but all right, cool, cool, cool. Well, let's start us off with just some little snips, just some little things that I wrote down here. So I think there's the best place to start with this one is like the very beginning, right? This
Hmm.
movie, even before you see any characters, before you see anything, this movie is introduced to us as a true story.
Hmm.
And I think that's impactful to me because, as I mentioned, like when I was just talking about it as a middle schooler, like all my friends were like, "Yeah, it's totally based on a true story," and I was like, this is crazy. I'm not going to go to
Hmm.
Texas. you know,
Right. Yeah.
like I'm just going to avoid the whole state entirely, right? And I
Hmm.
think that's some genius marketing by the team. Just being able to kind of put that out there because it wasn't just the movie itself, right? There was other stuff that kind of went along with that. Did you do any research on that? Have any thoughts on it or anything?
Yeah. No. And I agree with you. Um, and it was absolutely the decision to call it that is really, really good. Even though I can't remember everything, I should have looked it up. But like
You're good.
the big inspiration, and it's very loosely because there's really no connection to it aside from like the furniture made of bones and the skin mask, based on like the crimes of like Ed Gein,
Mm-hmm.
which
Yep.
was I think in like Wisconsin
Wisconsin. Yeah.
maybe. But the way it's billed is like this is, and I think there was also a serial killer in Houston around the time that he decided to make it, and I can't remember
Yeah.
his name. And so I think he kind of just mashed those two things together to
Yeah.
make it, based on a true story. So like that's not wrong, but it's not really. But to like center the marketing around that was
Yeah.
like really smart, you know.
And I think in this time frame, right? Like if you go back 1970s, right? This is pre-internet. Like, people are seeing this on TV, like, oh, this is based on a true story, and they have nothing to cross-reference that, right? Like they
Right.
don't.
That's the other thing I was going to say is like if you don't know the backstory, the loose associations with Ed
Mhm.
Gein and the other stuff, you just see you're hit right off the bat with like the most diabolical scroll
It's
and
crazy.
introduction, and you think this is based on a man that wears dead skin and kills people with chainsaws. That's
Which
exactly what you think, which is exactly what they want you to think.
Right, 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 right. If
So,
you're a middle of nowhere Montana and you see this and you're like, well, this could happen next door.
right. Yeah.
So which I think is genius. We talked about that a little bit, which you can throw back to another pod when we did. You said it best, brother. We were talking a little bit about the Blair Witch Project and just
Right.
the impact that marketing had on everything, just to kind of like get everybody interested. I don't have anything tangible on how that marketing impacted this movie in particular, but I can only imagine that you know I think people are scrambling to see it because it's a crazy story. People like
Hmm.
this kind of stuff. That's why every girl's dating profile says like I love murder documentaries. So
Right. And I think too that's exactly in my research. It's like that's exactly what he wanted to happen
mhm.
with it, you know, because in a lot of ways, and you may have another snip, or we may talk about this later, so I may be overstepping, but a lot of what he was trying to say was like a critique on like how Americans take in our media, and like
Yep.
this just like insane fascination with over the top violence, you
Hmm.
know, people getting hurt, people getting, you know, not just killed, but killed like violently and stretched out, you know, tortured and that kind of thing. And it's like, despite all that, you know, like he proved it right. You know, it's like people will go to see other people get hurt,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
even like like we talked about earlier, you and I, the radio shows in the background. It's constantly
Hmm.
like, oh, so and so jumps off this building, you know, 10 dead, an explosion. And it's just, you know,
Very grim stories. Yeah, no, I
hmm
like before we got on while I was eating dinner, like I was kind of going back because that was a point that I had as well. So I'm glad you brought it up. Is like, just I think news and media in general. And then also I think there's one more point I'd like to talk about with this kind of grander scheme. But one thing that I hadn't noticed before until this, like actually just about an hour ago, it's like that opening, like right after the opening scroll, when they're just showing like the pictures of everything. It's like it's a
it's the
like a
flashbulb,
flashbulb,
isn't it? Yeah.
just like somebody in a media, or like, I mean, it could have been a detective or something, right? But like what
hmm
I would expect somebody in the news media to be going up and taking a picture to put in like a newspaper clipping,
Yeah.
and like they're gonna pick the most gruesome thing to, like you were saying, just to kind of like get attractive, get attraction
Yeah.
and kind of get people interested. So
Yeah.
I think
And
there were a
even
lot of
today you
intentional
see it
things.
like people getting hurt out in the streets, people just sitting there with phones, you know, stuff like that. It's like
Yeah.
we're just totally sometimes oblivious to suffering if for some reason it allows us just a handful of minutes of entertainment.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. So, um, I don't want to jump ahead if you had anything else on that, but like, so one
hmm
other related thought that I was thought was interesting, and I don't know, this is kind of some thoughts that I was having. It's kind of like to along with that, like the theme of perspective. Like, the backdrop of this movie is, yeah, like a lot of the stuff going on in real life is the Vietnam War, right?
hmm
So, talking about the media and government and everything like that is like there's a lot of people like hated it, because of like the U.S. and their involvement in the Vietnam
hmm
War, and kind of like I think if you compare some of that kind of stuff that was going on with like just in this, like the two families intersecting, right? It's like, all right, the perspective of our protagonists, which I'm going to say protagonists, right? It's like that they're just on an innocent trip, they're on their way, right? Whatever.
hmm
But they go to like into a stranger's house, they kind of just like mess around where they shouldn't be, and doing some stuff that like really questionable,
hmm
right? And I think on the flip side, like you have again just Vietnam War and how people kind of felt about it. So um,
Right.
that wasn't a super fleshed out thought there, but I just thought it was kind of interesting.
Well, and after you said it, something popped into my head too. It's interesting to kind of view the protagonist, I guess, as like America in the Vietnam War, but in a lot of other ways, I think it can also be, and we've talked about that too, that it's representation of like the family unit and how it was changing around the
Hmm.
70s. But
Yeah.
it can also be, I mean, these are two very different sections of people that we
Hmm.
see in the movie, right? But
Yeah.
they're both, you know, they're both from Texas. You know, they're not nearly as
Right.
different as I think that they come off originally. You know, like sure
Yeah.
the Hewitts and all them, and I don't even remember if they're actually called the Hewitts in the original, but you know, the family in the original, um, yeah, they do some pretty awful, terrible things. You know, but like you said, like it may not come off, it may not be blatant murder, but I mean, the other people they just walked into houses and
Yeah.
around
Like they belong
things.
there.
You know, they just did stuff just because they want no even thoughts, no second thoughts.
They
You
didn't
know,
knock on any doors. Actually, I think they did knock on a door at one point. but then they just
Yeah,
went
they
in.
did, but then nobody answers, and they're like, "Hang on, what's
This looked
you know?"
interesting, and then ding dong, dead.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. Yeah, no, I think I know, whatever. Um no, I think it's interesting you bring up the families. I think because there's some commentary there too, and
Hmm.
I have done very little research into this, but I think if you look at the two families, like you have the very traditional family of like Leatherface and his folks who were more on like the we're gonna hit the hog over the head, right? We're gonna do
Hmm.
it the old fashioned way, and then you have our protagonists. You have I forget their last name, but they're more modern in how they like are going to end the life of an animal, right? They have
Right.
like the machines and everything like that. I think there is an interesting dynamic there,
Hmm.
and I don't think that was done by accident.
Right. No. Yeah. I think you're right.
So I don't know what he was trying to say, but you know, I think it was on purpose.
Yeah.
um, let's see. I kind of skipped around a lot. Um, can we talk for a second about? Actually, that's all the snips I had. Yeah. Do you have any other like main points or anything that just like just wanted to bring up before we jump around?
No, none other than in it. Then I one thing I noticed too is how normal too the family's house really looks
Mm-hmm.
from the outside,
Yeah.
you know, and like how there's so many chaotic things that happen underneath stuff,
Mm-hmm.
like you never really know what anybody is truly about,
Mm-hmm.
and also like bad things can happen very quickly. Like I think how they shoot that original Leatherface reveal, like they're just tiptoeing into like this quiet house, kind of, you don't hear
Mm-hmm.
anything,
Yeah.
the door's open, it's a sunny day or whatever, and then all of a sudden that door slides back. He
Yeah.
is smashed in the head, dragged in, door back, and it's all over in like 15 seconds, and it's like nothing ever happened.
A horrible way to die, by the way. Can we
Yeah,
just point that out really? Like just imagine getting hit with a mallet on the head, which doesn't
when you
kill
see him,
you.
it's like
Yeah, it's like,
it's
dude,
horrific.
like I mean, I guess none of it is humane, really. I mean, obviously killing humans is not okay. We're
Right.
just putting that out there. But, obviously, kind of comparing it to how they would kill, like, the how to
Hmm.
slaughter pigs and everything. It's like, dang, like, which is probably some commentary too on like, how we as people, as Americans, get our food and all that kind of stuff.
Oh no,
There's
it's
so
definitely a critique on like the meat business too.
which I don't. Do you have more on that? Or do you want to save it?
Well, not that could be a whole nother podcast in and of itself, but it really is um, a. I don't have enough. I know for a fact he meant it like that. I don't
Yeah.
have enough like background or data to do
Hmm.
specifics, but I know part of the message is how we take um, food, and
Yeah.
animals, and how we treat them just to get what we want.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
go back to the exploitation thing at the beginning, just watching blatant violence happen just for
Yeah.
pure entertainment. You know,
Well, and I think it's okay if we don't have all the information. We're going to empower our viewers and listeners to go find some of the
right?
information on their own. So
Watch
we'll
that
give
movie
you,
and do your research, man.
we'll get you started, but take it and go
Yeah.
from there. So, I also think that this movie was very ahead of its time in their treatment of Franklin. Just with our where our president is currently going, getting rid of DEI initiatives and everything. Like they are not inclusive at all to Franklin. They treat him so
Oh no,
poorly.
I
The
even
whole
texted you on
movie,
my
dude.
rewatch. They
It's
are
like,
Franklin is treated like an absolute like piece of garbage.
it's
Like,
so bad.
I know he's kind of a whiner. I'll give him
He
that.
is. He
He
is.
is kind of arguably the most irritating character,
Yep.
but like they wheel him. It feels like it's his idea to go to the grandparents' house, right? It
Yeah.
feels like it's been his idea the whole time,
Yeah.
and they all go in and immediately go upstairs.
Just leave him there. Hey, go upstairs. Leave him like by the van too. They're just
Yeah,
like, oh,
they don't
he'll be
even
fine.
wheel him up to the house. They get him out of the van, put him in his chair, and they're like, "See ya."
I think I wrote this down somewhere else. Like it's about 2/3 through the movie before anybody like really like gives him help doing
Hmm.
anything. Which
Hmm.
like, maybe people like, don't want that help, but like also he seemed to be struggling a lot
Hmm.
and they just, you know, when he went tumbling down, like when after he's relieving himself in the beginning of the, and it's just like he's disheveled, like nobody could help him. He's just,
Give him a coffee can to pee in. And it's so jarring though too, because like I'm gearing you're gearing yourself up after the intro for like the most horrific experience of your life. And the first scene is Sally Hardisty's invalid brother Franklin tumbling down the hill with a coffee can as he's trying to pee. And he's like, it's like this funny, but I don't know whether to laugh. It's so off-putting. It's like, ah.
yeah, it's a little jarring for sure.
Mhm.
So, oh, goodness, just I needed to put that out there.
No, I'm glad. Yeah,
They
I'm
should have
glad you brought that
they
up.
should justice for Franklin, you know. So, um, all
I
right,
think he's actually the only one that gets like killed by the chainsaw. Actually,
yeah, yeah. But it's
so
kind of a yeah. He does. It's kind of a weak like X mark, and then he dies. I think.
yeah,
Or no, wait. He tries to kill Sally that way and doesn't. Yeah,
right.
but he does die with the chainsaw. Yes.
Hmm.
All right. I have one more question. I think we have some
Okay.
discussion about this for sure. I
Hmm.
don't think you're expecting this question. So, um, is Leatherface the killer on the Mount Rushmore of slashers? Not the movie. Leatherface the killer.
Yeah. Yes.
Why? Explain this to me.
Okay. Well, I guess it depends on who you think should be there instead of him.
I mean, I think because I'm ready. I was ready. I was ready for this. I think
Okay.
number one, and who needs to be considered, and I think may get some flack for, is Ghostface. I know he's because he does all of this as a human. He has no superhuman, nothing like
So is
he.
Leatherface.
Yeah, but he doesn't do it by himself. He does it with his family, which I think is very family. We're all fast and furious over here.
Family,
He
because family.
he he does very little. Thank you, Mr.
Hmm.
Dom Toretto over there. He does very little by himself, and I hear you clicking like you're looking up some stuff.
Oh yeah, we're about to get in a fight.
I knew you'd take this personally. I just I I could be convinced that he'd be on there, but I'm just gonna put number one. I think I'm I'm gonna put Ghostface on there. I know he's clumsy and has issues, but I think the fact that the kill count is pretty high for it being just a human or multiple humans throughout the movies. So we can table that one. But Michael Myers, for
Right.
sure, definitely better, more
Hmm.
powerful, hands down. Jason Voorhees,
Okay.
as a slasher, he does most of the work by himself.
Okay.
You're annoyed. Freddy Krueger,
Okay.
just a pretty dope power to be able to like get into people's dreams and like literally terrorize them. Like, you know, some supernatural stuff going on there. So I think that fourth spot is just where whoever you're going to choose. I mean, there's different options, but
I think the four spot is where a lot of people interchange because as I said that and I was getting ready to destroy you.
you found out I might be
You
right.
know, the first thing that comes up is like a Reddit thread, and the two lists right off the bat are Freddy Krueger, Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees, Pennywise. And then the
Interesting.
next one is Michael Myers, Chucky, Freddy Krueger, and I don't understand this one. Annie Wilkes
Who's
from
Annie
Misery.
Wilkes? I haven't seen
for
that. I'm
Misery. It's
sorry.
based on a Stephen King book, and she's
Okay.
really scary. But
Yeah,
like, if you want to include body count, I think
she'd be
she's
up
got
there.
I think she did. She didn't kill anybody.
Oh,
She
well then
maimed somebody pretty badly. I'll
the
say
hell is she
say
doing on
that.
this list for?
Right.
I disagree with that Reddit user. Um,
Um. So yeah.
I
Well,
think
I don't think Ghostface is not deserving, but personally, I think our top three are the same. I would just put Leatherface where you put Ghostface. But
okay,
I think that
that's fair.
also is, I mean, you like Scream better than Texas Chainsaw
I do.
Massacre. And I like Texas Chainsaw Massacre better than, okay. That's
Do you
cute.
have a Texas Chainsaw tattoo? I
No,
didn't see it.
no, I just have a lot more tattoos
I
than
just
you.
wanted people to know I'm a really big Ghostface fan.
Um, yeah, and I'm, you know, we just went with our faves. We went with our guys. Yeah. I almost wore my shirt, but the design is on the back.
Mm.
Leatherface is on the back of that shirt. So I just moved
So
the poster into frame
yeah,
instead.
it'd be weird if we did the podcast with your back to the camera. So
Or
I'm
just wear the
glad you
shirt
didn't do that.
backwards. I thought about doing that, but it
That
was kind of
actually would.
uncomfortable. And I was like, I don't know how long I can actually do this and not get annoyed with myself.
That's fair. Yeah, I think we can agree on three, and then some people, like you said, some people would even like Chucky, and throw them in there.
Right.
Whoever the guy from oh my god, Hellraiser, if you want to
Yeah,
count him as a
Pinhead.
slasher, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of options out there. I don't think I'd put Pennywise in there. I don't know, maybe I don't know. I've been wrong before,
I'd have to
so
hear somebody's argument,
yeah.
you know.
TBD. That's for another time. Another
Right.
time. All right. Cool. So that's all I have for like random questions and like snips and stuff like that. You ready
Hmm.
to hop into some categories?
Let's run some categories.
All right. Lit. All right. First and foremost, has our friend, our good dear friend, Dustin Robertson seen this movie?
I mean, I have to go with no.
I wrote absolutely expletive not.
Absolutely freaking not.
That how did you know? Yeah, no, there's no way he's seen this movie. He wouldn't watch this movie if it was turned into a Hallmark movie with like a sports background plot line intertwined. There's
Right.
It's not happening. Yeah, yep.
Hmm.
Love him, but not seeing this movie. All right, moving on. Disneyfication. So could this movie have be made into some sort of theme park attraction, and if so, what kind?
I see. This one was tricky because I guess you mentioned the HHN, Halloween Horror Nights houses,
Mm,
which that's an attraction. I would
yeah,
say so. It has been done. Um, in terms of, I guess, like what kind, like obviously a haunted house little walkthrough situation is perfect for. But I think you could also do it like a roller coaster, even, like move through different, depending on how you want to set it up. There's like different
mm,
settings,
yeah,
you go through, originally you go through the grandparents' house, or you go through the graveyard, and then all of a sudden, like he's coming at you from the sides, like a Pirates of the Caribbean situation, but maybe
sure.
faster.
Yeah. I could dig it. I could get behind that.
So
So
yeah, totally. It wouldn't be a Disney, but yeah, absolutely. This bad boy
no,
could be a
maybe in the new villains area, which would be pretty dope. But they don't own it, so it's not gonna happen.
wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
I think HHN House, obvious answer, because it was a really good one. It was one of my favorites
Hmm.
that year. They did it really, really well. Um,
I think,
even like,
yeah, and I think I liked it because you could just hear the chainsaws from all over the park.
yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
could just hear, it was just constant chainsaw, and it was, that almost made it scarier because we didn't go there immediately, but you can just hear the chainsaws again and again and again, and then you get
yeah.
closer and closer and closer, and you're like, God, is this going to
There,
scare me?
there's like
This could scare
27
me.
Leatherface. Yeah, it's good, and it did. It did. It scared most
Yeah.
people. So yeah, really well done.
Hmm.
The only other thing I think they could do, and they, Disney's done this a couple times, Universal's done this a couple times. Kind of a bit of a more like educational attraction, where kind of honestly, it's a museum and a theme park. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, but they did this and with a couple different things. And like, I think it would be cool. You know, we've talked a little bit about some of the commentary, like on society and history and things like that. Like, I think people would appreciate that, you know, as seeing like, okay, like great, we can consume a movie, you know, and we
Hmm.
can take it at face value, or you can look deeper, you can look further, you can see like, all right, what was Tobe Hooper trying to say, like what was he trying
Right.
to get across as far as a theme is concerned. So,
Hmm.
which I think is powerful, you know, like that's why,
Right.
you know, we like to do this
And that's,
podcast.
yeah, that's what makes it so good. I mean, like you could watch it as strictly a slasher and enjoy it, or you could
Hmm.
watch it with a more um, analytical mind and get a lot out of it as well. So
Yeah, I would watch it. I'd go to that attraction, but I'm a
yeah,
nerd, so. All right. Moving on along here. All right. Hot date. Hot date award. Who you
there's I mean,
taking?
there's really just so many options here.
I think there's literally two.
Yeah, there's
Unless
literally
you
two.
wanted, you could do a bro date. You know, you could wheel Franklin around somewhere if you want.
I see. That's the thing is, I mean, out there's two women characters, right?
Uh-huh.
Um, but on the other hand, there's not a single male character that I even feel like I'd want to hang out with.
Really quick before we hop along here, I think the one thing about this movie, and maybe why some people could like, you know, knock it down, talking about Rotten Tomatoes score and everything, is we really just don't get a ton of like understanding about the characters. You know, we
Hmm.
don't get super connected to the characters. You know, some
Right.
other like more
Hmm.
modern movies like X, who I think tried to kind of copy some of the themes and a little bit of the even like the setting and everything.
Hmm.
You know, we get a little bit more of a background of the characters. This movie is an hour and 20 minutes, so we don't really get some of that connection, I don't think.
Right.
But what, you know, which I don't think is a bad thing. It's just that's how it is. So,
Hmm.
but
Which I mean, I guess all that being said, I feel like I got to go with Sally.
yeah, yeah, that's
I
the
know
right
Pam.
answer.
Pam is cute, but like again, I she's really into that horoscope stuff, and I just don't think I could handle it.
Dude, you hate horoscopes.
I
You
can't
really
stand.
hate horoscopes.
I can't stand it. I can't
I
stand it. And normally, I'm pretty tolerant of whatever anybody else wants to
yeah.
do, of people's hobbies, lifestyles, viewpoints, or whatever. But when you start trying to tell me that you know who I am and what I am before, like based solely
Based
on
off your
where,
birthday.
yeah, it was like, come on.
Like where was Mercury when you were
Where
born,
was
you know?
Mercury when you? I need the exact date. I played along with it before, just to see what happens, and it's so specific. It's like, when were you born? In October. Where? The US, but where? Tennessee. And then it's like, you have to get so minute. Like,
Yep.
I don't see how this is relevant. And I don't know, maybe it is, but I don't like it. I don't like it one bit.
Oh goodness. Yeah, sorry, I'm putting my computer on do not disturb for a second. Um
Hmm.
I agree with you. It's Sally, 100%. I think, you know, I mean, she lives, she survives, so that's a big winner for me. You know,
Hmm.
could actually maybe go out. She's also the first one. This is where my note for Franklin. She's the first one to volunteer to push Franklin around. It's 2/3 into the movie, and it's her. I was like, heart of gold right there, Sally. Thank you very much.
Well, they are
So
related, so.
that's beside the point. There's a lot of other people there who could be kind and help him out, but you know, it's not.
Hmm.
And it still took her 2/3 of the movie to do that, but it's okay. All right. Um, Bonesaw Award. There was a WWE or some sort of other wrestling federation wrestler that you could throw into this movie. Who are you picking and why?
See, that's tough because, like, I mean, the reality is there's so many. You could put any large wrestler Well, I wouldn't say any. You know, I guess it depends on like their demeanor and stuff. But you could put
Hmm.
somebody like Undertaker
I
in
was gonna
there
say
or
Undertaker.
Sting, even.
Yeah,
Yeah, you know, or maybe maybe Ric Flair as the dad.
the old dad, the one.
Yeah. No, no, not the old dad, like the guy at the gas station that runs the gas station.
He's one of the brothers. He is old,
Yeah, no, okay, you're right.
but yeah,
But not
I
not the
see.
dad,
Okay,
the oldest brother. You're right. You're right.
see, I pegged him as Vince McMahon because I thought they looked alike. It's like just kind of put him in there, just be
Well,
like.
yeah. I mean, actually,
But
yeah.
I think Undertaker would be good, especially if you know, our guy. Oh my God, who did House of a Thousand Corpses? I'm drawing
Rob
a blank.
Zombie.
Rob Zombie. In the Rob Zombie version of this movie, it would be the Undertaker as Leatherface.
I think you're right.
Just a little bit more dramatic, you know.
Hmm.
All right, National Treasure. If you could cop one item from production of this movie, what are you picking and why? Not a lot of vehicles in this one, so if you say that stupid van, I'm gonna say no, no. You
Well,
don't
and
need
here's
that.
the problem: there's not a lot of vehicles, but then there's only so many. It's like, do I pick the chainsaw? I feel so cliche.
You could.
Or I could pick the bone couch, the couch made of bone.
A new piece for your apartment.
Yeah.
Daniel brings a date home. She sees that. It's like,
I mean,
oh.
come on in. What do you want to watch? Love Actually on this couch, this
Or
bone couch,
let me show you where I got this from. We're gonna watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
right?
That's my
I-
couch.
right. Fast
Oh
forward, but
goodness.
get to that point. There it is. There's the couch. That's my couch.
Then you watch Love Actually.
Right. Or You've Got Mail.
Both
Bridget
classics.
Jones's Diary. I can keep going.
No, we're good. Thanks.
Okay.
Um, I like the bone couch. That's I think it's a good choice for you. I
Franklin's wheelchair
only if you promise to push me around in it when you come visit next.
at HHN. That's the only place I'm going to do it
I'm in. All
because
right.
we could skip a lot of stuff.
Not that that's what we should do if you're in a wheelchair, or that's
No, no,
why
no.
people use that. I don't want anybody watching this to think that, but it could possibly get us faster into the line. So, um, I'm not choosing that though. I want the Leatherface mask that he wears at dinner with like the
Oh
makeup and
man,
stuff on it.
I thought about that earlier. Now that you said that, like the more formal dead skin mask.
Yes, the that one just makes me laugh every time I see it because it's just like so like wild. And then he gets more and more disheveled as he like
Right,
because he wears it in like the final chase and everything, and it's just
right.
like I love it. And that
He's
would
so
be
dressed up too. He really wants to look good for dinner. He's wearing those boots, the little bolo tie, and a blazer.
he really wanted
My
to
guy's
cut
trying. He's
he wanted
trying.
to cut Sally's fingers off in style.
Hmm.
Oh goodness. Or I want the Coca-Cola sign that says "We Slaughter Barbecue" because that would be fun just to
Another
put up
good
in.
choice.
Yeah. That one is kind of iconic to me too because I remember at Halloween Horror Nights, like their little stand that they had for
Mhm.
food and everything, like that was the sign for it. And I just
Right.
thought it was cool.
Well, and you can even take that. I mean, that's another critique I think of like the meat industry. Like
Hmm.
you can tidy up what you're doing all you want, but at the end of the day, if you're going to eat meat, it's been slaughtered.
Yeah, that's
You
true. I
know.
didn't even think about that. Yeah,
So anyway,
yeah.
but that's a good
No, that's
choice.
good. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. I do have to decorate a new apartment soon, so might as well.
True.
Hence
That's true.
the empty space behind me. So
Hmm.
yeah, yeah. All right, two more. We've got goat and the freshest take. So I think there's a couple options for freshest take. I don't have a great feeling about the goat one, but I did choose somebody. So
I'm going with Leatherface for the soul. Not even the soul, but like I saw this mentioned. in like an article I was reading about it before I started watching it, and I never really paid
Mm-hmm.
attention to it. But like, if you think about those guys that you put on like your Mount Rushmore, you know, with
Mm-hmm.
the exception of like Ghostface and Freddy, everybody else is pretty stoic, you know,
Yeah,
and they're, you know, can may or may not have superpowers to an extent, you know, but like
yeah,
Leatherface is just a dude, you know, and
true.
there's even a
Yeah.
scene where like you can they zoom in on his face,
Mm-hmm.
you know, where he's like looked outside and he's panicked and is anybody else coming? And he just has like a panicked look on his face, you know,
Yeah,
and like a lot of ways it almost makes him kind of sympathetic, you know, because he's
yeah.
in a lot of ways he probably doesn't know any better. Um, and
Well,
so go ahead.
go ahead. No, I was gonna say talking about perspective earlier, right?
Right.
Like this family doesn't know any better. Like, that's just what they've done forever. It doesn't make it right necessarily, but in their eyes, like they're doing just what they've done, it looks like for centuries. So
Yeah. Their family's been in meat for a long time.
meat business.
Meat business.
Um I I like your answer better, but I kind of wanted to choose something a little bit different. So I just want to talk about him for a second. The
Hmm.
actor's name is Edwin Neal. He's the youngest brother. So he's the
Hmm.
hitchhiker in the beginning of the movie. I just think he does a really good like job of setting the tone. I'm just
Hmm.
like super unhinged, like he's out there stabbing people and
Hmm.
charging them for pictures. You know, that's that's our
Absolute
intro.
chaos,
Yeah, and
you know,
he's
and another you bring up a good point, and cast Toby Hooper cast in all the roles just people. He didn't
yeah.
want any well-known actors because he thought that
Mm,
it would make it reactions and things more believable
yeah,
and more immersive, you know, like and to an extent that he has a point, you know, because like it would be hard to get immersed, I guess, knowing it was a movie if it's seeing like Brad Pitt or somebody like that,
yeah, yeah. If
you
you had a
know.
family of Brad Pitt, Leonardo DiCaprio, and George Clooney, and be like,
Right. Like I'm
what the
clearly
hell?
like, oh, this is a blockbuster movie, you know, but like
Yeah.
everything about that movie is just low budget,
Hmm.
gross, gritty, grimy, everything. And like
Yep.
the everything was pretty purposeful, even from the
Yeah.
casting decisions. And that
Yeah.
was really cool to me.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. Nice. Thanks for chiming in. I appreciate that. All right. Last one.
Hmm.
Freshest take. So we talked a lot about some of the different things going on, and
Right.
just some of the yeah. What's your freshest take? What do you think? Like lasting impact from this movie or biggest commentary.
I don't know. It's not, I guess it's not even that fresh of a take, you know. There's only so many takes you can take to an extent
Yeah,
with a movie this old that's that popular that's been watched so many times and critiqued and analyzed. But
sure.
um, I think one thing that I will say and stand by is it's one of the most important horror movies ever
Hmm.
made, but it's one of the more important movies ever made.
Yeah,
American movie at least,
yeah,
and it was way ahead of its time. It was so much more than a slasher. And you know, I made the comment earlier. It's like you can watch it as a slasher and it works really, really good, or
hmm
you can watch it as you know a critique on like the Vietnam War, or on the
hmm
meat industry, or on like the American family in the '70s, and
yeah,
it all still works.
hmm yeah,
And so, I think that my take is not only is it a really good horror movie, it's a really good movie.
yeah. I am gonna take that one and kind of like hone in on one little part of that. Like one of my favorite things I think that Hooper's trying to come across with in this one is like
Hmm.
trauma and the impact that it can have on somebody.
Right.
Again, this is Vietnam War. People are, I believe, if my history is correct, and my dad would be upset that I don't remember because he's a history teacher, but I'm pretty sure the Vietnam War is
He's
over at
he's
this
so
time.
ashamed of you.
Stop. I'm gonna have to talk to my therapist about it next week.
So
Um,
ashamed.
um, but Yeah, I think the Vietnam War is over at this point. You know, a lot of folks have come home, a lot of trauma. You know, there's a lot of things that
Right.
happened there that had a lasting impact on the people who were involved in it, right? And if you look at this movie, like look at Sally in particular, like sure she survives, but like imagine like just like the look on her face like as she's like escaping, it's like you know she didn't really escape. Like this is gonna follow her for the rest of her life. You know, her
Right.
best friends, one of her brother, like you know a lot, they died, they're murdered, she was almost murdered, you know.
Right.
And it's like you know I think this movie has a lot to say with like how people react to it. And you know
Hmm.
even though you may get through something, you know it has a lasting impact on you. So
Right. And then they show that they try to show that to they try to do the whole requel thing with the
mm-hmm,
2022 Netflix one in a lot of the
mm-hmm,
same ways. I mean, what you just said is like exactly what they did with the 2018 Halloween, you
mm-hmm.
know? And I think that was a really interesting and good point. You're right, because it's like, what if these are just movies, but like, what if this really happened to somebody? Like,
Yeah.
and actually taking time to see what that looks like. And so I guess they briefly touch on it in that Netflix one, but they don't do a very good job of it.
You're right. They did not do a very good job. I appreciate that they made it. I thought
I
it was,
like the thought, you know, I
yeah,
guess, but
execution.
execution is bad. But I think on the to give it its props, I think the Leatherface design is pretty cool, and there's some decent kills.
There you go. Throw them a
Aside
bone.
from
They did
that,
something right.
it's not great.
Oh, goodness. All right, sir. Well, that's it for our categories.
Hmm.
Any lasting thoughts or anything we didn't cover that you wanted to throw out there?
Not really, man. I think we hit it pretty well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I think we covered a lot. And again, I think really empowered the viewers because we're just two dudes doing a podcast. So, you know, if
Hmm.
there's something we didn't cover fully, there really is a lot to this movie. And I will say, typically we try to choose movies that are on streaming platforms. I have no idea if this one is on a streaming platform at this moment in time. But
I'm pretty sure it's on Amazon.
okay, okay. If not,
But
go
and I
ahead.
think at the time we said we were gonna do it. It was um, here. I'll take a look. It's streaming. I'll do our viewers a service that we should have done before we got on.
Yeah.
Streaming currently on Tubi and Amazon Prime and Plex. All
So,
three
and
for
Tubi's
free.
free, right?
Yeah. You can go on
Tubi's
Tubi
free.
right now and watch this movie for free.
You don't even have to pirate it, you know, which I've
In
never
all of its
done,
1970s grindhouse glory.
which would be the best way to watch it, I think, honestly.
Hmm.
So, all right, awesome. Well, it's good to be back. You know, Dan and I were talking a little bit before we started getting into it, and we both missed this a lot, and
Hmm.
been good getting back. So, yeah, yeah, yeah. We got some more stuff coming. We don't have anything planned. I can guarantee that we are going to keep this going,
Right.
but we don't have a teaser for the next one. So
No.
stay
And to be
tuned.
fair, even if we did, I'd rather not tease and then wait like 6 months to do it.
Which we're not going to
So
do,
right, yeah,
but
it won't take that long, you know. But
maybe like three.
yeah,
Yeah.
just cut our time in half.
And then eventually we'll, you know, get back
We're
on
just
track.
perfectionists. We can't help it. We just want everything to. We just everything's got to be just so, you know.
Yeah, no, but seriously, I think, you know, we did miss this a lot. I'm doing some fact checking here. When
Hmm.
is, um, are we? No, we're not in Men's Mental Health Month. That's in June. But take care of yourself. Take care of your mental health. I think that's probably why both of us kind of felt like taking a break, just because, like, you know, for various reasons, we were both in spots where we needed to take a step back and focus on ourselves
Hmm.
and do some different things. So I don't want to speak for Dan here, but I know that was part of it for me, and you know, it was a weird last 6 months for sure. So learned a lot and still growing.
Hmm.
But, you know, I definitely feel like, yeah, 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 yeah. So in a good spot. A better spot. All right.
Better.
Until next time. Now
Now
this
this
is
is
podcasting.
podcasting.